Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the BFNL Footy Show for another week. Fantastic to be joining you once again to talk all about the Ballarat Football Netball League on this upcoming long weekend, the Queen's birthday weekend. Sean Kelly's my name. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Liam Brady. Liam, welcome, mate. Great to have you back.
Good to be here, Sean. Looking forward to talking about a massive weekend ahead, mate, and some big games last weekend to talk about as well.
Yeah, there was indeed. But before we get there, talking point number one this week, just highlighting some fantastic achievements from some players that have come out, obviously, of the WorkSafe AFL Community Championships. 6 players from the BFNL selected in state squads coming out of the championships as well. In the senior squad, we had Nick Hine from East Point and Lane Buckwell from Lake Wendouree. Yep. And then in the 9 and under squad, which has just been announced very, very recently, 4 BFL players: Ben Lusby from East Point, Ben Simpson from North Ballarat City, Lise Pateri from Darley, and Luke Delahaye from Darley as well. Great to see the BFL represented in these state squads.
Yeah, fantastic, Shawnee, and look, full credit to those players. Obviously, they played really good interleague games. A couple of boys have made the senior team. It's great to see a couple of young players make the team. I know we've had a lot of players that have represented Vic Country from the Ballarat League in the last few years.
Yep.
Often they've been sort of older Ecolom sort of players, but good to see a couple of young blokes. And obviously that's a fair reflection of the way they played a couple of weeks ago. So it's good to see they've been rewarded on a really good performance.
Yeah, fantastic to see, and obviously those squads will be trimmed down going into the state games, which is normally about a month away, so we'll keep you updated with what's happening with those teams. Talking point number 2, looking at some clubs on the rebound. North Ballarat City had a bit of a lean streak going into last weekend. They'd lost 2 in a row against some good teams. They were coming up against the Melton side that was showing some promise this year, and boy did they smack them on the weekend. Came out and absolutely towered them up at Eureka Stadium. Have they got their mojo back?
Yeah, look, it was a fairly surprising result. I thought Melton would have got a lot closer than that, but I think maybe we've just underestimated North City so far a little bit this year. We've spoken a fair bit about Lake Wendouree and Sunbury and these sort of sides, and I know that North City have lost a few players in the off season, but they're certainly right up there, contending. And I'm sure that over the next little while they'll keep, I suppose, building some momentum, and I think they'll be right in the thick of things at the business end of the season. Interestingly, they do play a lot better, I think, up at Eureka Stadium.
They do.
They play the ground very well. And I think that's certainly, I know when Eastern Bloc sides do come up and play at Eureka Stadium, they do struggle with the wide open spaces. And obviously the dimensions have changed a little bit this year, but it hasn't seemed to
matches Etihad Stadium almost perfectly now.
Hasn't seemed to have affected North City too much. They're playing some great footy there. I saw them play a month or so ago against Sebastian. They had a great win there as well. So they're playing good footy. Jordan Burke, the coach, is going well.
Scoring power up there as well. Obviously, you mentioned Jordan Burke. Mitch Johns is kicking goals as well. Derek Micallef's kicking goals. It's a lot of options that opposition teams have to stop.
I think Micallef has sort of recaptured his form of a couple of years ago. He's had a couple of injuries the last 18 months or so, but it's great to see. He's a really exciting play on a half-forward flank. We know he's got that damaging left foot. He gets the ball within sort of 55 metres from goal. He's fairly dangerous, so it's good for the competition that he's up and about.
Yeah, it certainly is. He's a great player and great to watch in flight as well. Before we talk about this week's games, though, Liam, talking point number 3, just some dates to put in the diary for some pretty big events coming up from a BFNL perspective. Firstly, the AFL Goldfields Women in Football Lunch taking place at Tabcorp Park this year, Friday, July 15th. So chuck that one in the diary for all of the females out there. It's an absolutely fantastic lunch every year. And then Wednesday, the 27th of July, at the Ballarat Leagues Club, the 2016 Hall of Fame dinner. This is one of the best nights of the calendar every year. I remember it in 2014 when we had our last one. Absolutely great night with, I think we had 6 past players and administrators inducted, as well as a legend upgrade. We'll have similar again this year, I hope, and should be a fantastic night. And if anybody who does want tickets, start to inquire with your club to go already, because that will be a great night as always.
Yeah, I've been to the last couple of Hall of Fame nights for the BFL, and great nights, as you said. It's just it's great to hear the history behind each inductee and just what they've done for their club and the league, and also as you said, administrators have actually received them in the past too. So it's not all about on-field performance. A lot of people have done enormous work off the field for their respective clubs. So another great night ahead for sure.
Will be indeed, and also be a great weekend of football action in the Ballarat Football Netball League this weekend, starting out at Darley Park, where the Devils take on Ballarat. Ballarat not too bad against Redan last week, and of course Darley having the week off after getting that win last week, it'd be interesting to see if they get their mojo back. Obviously, Jake Edwards will be playing with the VFL team at Geelong this week as well, more than likely. So it'd be interesting to see how the Devils go this weekend at home against the Swans.
Yeah, look, another must-win game for Darley. I think they showed that they're finding a little bit of form. Look, Ballarat, as we know, got a really young side. They started the season really well. Had a couple of good victories early on. And obviously they were pretty good on the weekend against Redan, I thought. But it's going to be a tough assignment travelling down the highway against last year's premiers. I just think Darley at home would be a bit too strong.
Yeah, Darley, I reckon, for this one for mine as well. Interesting game taking place at the Eastern Oval this weekend. East Point also coming off a bye, coming up against a Sebastopol side that got the rounds of the kitchen out at Sunbury last week. Didn't score for the first half and really took them some time to get going. They'll be keen to get back home, get some face again, get some pride again, and not an easy task against East Point at home, who tend to play better at the Eastern Oval than they do away.
Yeah, look, East Point are, they're one of those sides. I just don't know in terms of the way they play. Like they can beat a side like Lake Wendouree or even a side like Bacchus Marsh, as they did earlier in the season. And then there's a lot of difference between their best and their worst.
Yep.
I suppose. If they play at their best, as I said, they can beat anyone. I think they'll be a bit too strong for Sebastopol. I know Glenn Wilkins, will be, I suppose, happy with patches of the season.
Yep.
If they can get that, that consistent form and play that football we know they can play in the second half of the season, I think they can, finish top 3, top 4.
I reckon you might be right.
But I think on the weekend they'll be too strong for Sebas. Look, Sebas had a disappointing loss to Sunbury on the weekend. Young side, they're going to have, I suppose, losses like that throughout the season. But Sebastian's form so far this year has been pretty good as well. But I think East Point, based on their really good play so far this year, they would be a bit too strong.
East Point will start as favourites, but can't afford to take Sebastopol too lightly in this one. Match of the round this week at the Wendouree Reserve, Liam. This will be a beauty. Lake Wendouree taking on Sunbury. I think the third top 2 game in a row for the Lakers, and Sunbury a real chance to test their legitimacy, coming down to Ballarat and playing against the competition's benchmark.
Look, every challenge has been thrown to Lake Wendouree so far. They've been able to come up with a really good result in getting the 4 points. I think they might be up against it here. I'm going to tip Sunbury. I just think Sunbury are playing great footy at the moment. We probably haven't spoken about Sunbury as much as we probably should have so far this year. We've focused on other teams a fair bit, but Sunbury are certainly one of the sides to beat. I saw them play against Redan 2 weeks ago at the City Oval. Really impressed with the way they move the ball. They're still a very young side, but obviously the recruits they've added in the off-season have certainly helped those younger players come on. I just think they can travel up the highway. They're a better side on the road these days, and they can beat Lake Wendouree.
Lucas Anderson going off injured early last week as well won't help the Lake Wendouree cause if he can't get up. And one to watch in this game, David Kovacevic, who's in fantastic form in the ruck for Sunbury at the moment. And of course the Lakers don't really have that recognised ruckman, so to speak. So Cova gets on top early and can feed that Sunbury midfield. It could be a long day for the Lakers.
Yeah, all the best to Lucas Anderson. We know that he's come down with a serious injury there, so hopefully he can, I'm not too sure what the prognosis is, but hopefully he can get back and play some footy at some stage this year. But Lakers are going to really miss him up forward. He's his focal point and he's a good kick for goal, good mark, so all the best to him. And as you said, Kovacevic, he's going to, I think, play a really important role on the weekend. Tanner Robertson's been playing the ruck for Lake Wendouree. He's doing a pretty good job, but he's going to be outsized on the weekends. He needs to be able to compete really well and try and give the Lakers first use of the footy if he can.
Yeah, it should be a great game at the Wendouree Reserve this weekend. It'll be an absolute ripper, I think, going along and having a look at this one. Melton taking on Redan at McPherson Park this weekend. Interesting game. Redan got the victory last weekend, got some players back in, but probably weren't 100%. And I think Eamon Gill said as much. He said if it wasn't for Nathan Horbury and Dean Matthews, who were clear standouts last week, they might have been in a bit of trouble against Ballarat.
Yep.
Melton be very keen to get home and save a bit of face after getting towed up here at Eureka Stadium, as we spoke about earlier. This could be an interesting game, I reckon.
This is a huge game. I think Melton are every chance here. I'm not going to look too far into their performance on the weekend. I'm going to base this tip on what they dished up prior to the weekend. I think Redan, they're not playing great footy at the moment, but they just got over the line on the weekend by 30 or 40 points. I suppose it was a win's a win, but look, I think Melton can win this game at home. We know that Redan is such a classy side, and they'll be there when the whips are cracking at the end of the season.
Yep.
But I think at the moment, Melton can get the job done at home.
Yeah, very interesting to see the results for this one Saturday night. And then a standalone Sunday game this weekend at Eureka Stadium, North Ballarat City taking on Bacchus Marsh. This will be a ripper as well, I tell you.
Yeah.
This would be a match of the round contender in just about any other round of the year. And it'll be very good to see. Obviously, Bacchus Marsh last week weren't too far away against Lake Wendouree.
Yeah.
This is their next big challenge. If they can take this one on, defeat North City or get very, very close to them and show us that if they make September, they're not just going to be there to make up numbers.
Yeah, exactly. I think Bacchus Marsh have every chance. They're, as I said, they're playing great footy. We know that North, as I said before, play great footy at home. I think there's definitely a match of the round. I'm going to tip Bacchus Marsh here. I think it's a bit of an upset, but I reckon they're playing good enough footy to come up the highway and beat North on a ground that they know so well. I think there's a fair chance we may see these two sides meet later on in the season. I reckon Bacchus Marsh in a very close one.
Got a few upsets this week, mate.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't just go, possibly outsiders, but I think it's a pretty even round.
It
it's
is,
a really good
definitely.
game, so looking forward to seeing what happens.
Make a case for just about every game this round to go one way or the other, as we've tried to do over the last 10 minutes or so, and obviously help guide you towards your tipping this weekend. Brades, thanks for joining us once again, mate. Some fantastic insight, as always, by your good self.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Shawnee.
And thanks to you for joining us as well here on the FNL Footy Show. We'll be back next week with more from around the Ballarat Football Netball League.